Hey guys, this is Catherine here in the Stancliffe Saddle Fitting Workshop, and I've got this used saddle in front of me from a client, and I wanted to go through the billets on this saddle and kind of give some examples of things I look for in the safety inspection when I'm out doing fittings to make sure that the saddle's in good condition to keep being used for riding. So the first thing I look at with the billets are the condition of the holes and the condition of the leather of the billets. So you can see there's definitely a lot of surface wear on these billets and cracking. They're fairly thick, so that by itself isn't necessarily a major cause for concern, but I also check and you can see these elongated teardrop shaped holes versus the more oval holes that aren't in use. So we definitely have a bit of stretching over time. So I'm looking for how stretched do they look, and if there's any what appears to be dry rotting on the surface. So I'd say there's a little bit of cracking and dry rotting here at the top, but they're fairly thick, so that by itself I'd probably give these a couple more months, but they definitely are in need of replacement soon. So then the next thing I look at is the condition of the stitching, and that's where this saddle gets a little funky. So up here at the top, we can see the top side of these stitches look pretty good. We have a stitch in every hole. They're nice and straight on the back side. The one thing that concerns me right off the bat is we have a lot of movement between the billet and the webbing. So that means that the stitches have come a little bit loose over time, so either the knot backed out a little bit or they weren't pulled super tight to begin with. So that's going to have a little bit more friction and cause for premature wear, so that's a little bit concerning. Then we get to this back billet here, which is on a V billet system, so there's two sets of webbing. And this one is a little crazy. So we have actually a hole here that's missing a stitch entirely that just looks like it got skipped when it was last put on. We have a random knot up here, which I'm not sure why that was put there. Usually it's on the back side or kind of tucked in between. Here on the side we can see they tried to tuck one into the side. It's a little crooked here on the back, which by itself wouldn't be major cause for concern, but aesthetically it just looks really sloppy, and again, there's a little bit of movement between the webbing and the billet, so that makes me a bit more concerned. So then we move on to the other side of the saddle, and here, kind of the same thing in the front. The front billet looks pretty good. We have a stitch in each hole, and again, kind of loose between the webbing and the billet. And you can see some gapping there at the top. So again, that's going to cause a little bit more friction, premature wear, which could lead to the thread tearing. Possibly mid-ride. On this side, again, we have this V billet system in the back, and for whatever reason, this middle webbing was just skipped. So one side has a V billet, and the other side just has a very back billet, which is going to change how the saddle sits on the horse and stabilizes. And then here in the back, we can actually see where some of the thread on top has worn off, so there's actually a stitch missing from wear, which is concerning because that means that that's a stress point on the billet. So at first, when I looked at the holes, I told the client we probably needed to replace them within the next 6 months at the latest. And after seeing this spot right here, and especially how this webbing was missed, we decided to do the billets immediately for the safety of both her and her horse. Thanks for listening. I hope this was enlightening, and let me know if you have any questions in the comments.